Have you ever noticed that the moment a difficult feeling shows up, your body wants to do almost anything else? Maybe you stay busy. Maybe you start to solve problems. Maybe you reach for your phone without even realizing it. Or maybe everything inside just goes quiet. If you've ever wondered why it's so hard to stay with your emotions, even when a part of you genuinely wants to understand yourself, you're not alone. As a therapist, I see this often in the people that I work with. And it's something that I've come to understand in my own life as well. Avoiding emotions isn't a personal failure. It's often a strategy that your nervous system developed because feeling everything at one point just didn't feel safe. And today, I want to explore why that happens and how we can start approaching our emotions with a little more curiosity and a lot more compassion. Hi there. If we've never met, my name is Raquel Perez, and I am a licensed therapist here in the state of Colorado. And I specialize in relationships, intimacy, trauma, and the healing journey. And here on Everyday Therapy, we explore the connection between ourselves, our relationships, our emotions in a practical and very human way. And if that's something that you're looking for, I am so glad you're here. Many of us grow up believing that emotions are something that we need to control. We're praised for staying calm. We're told not to cry, to get over it, to move on, to stop being sensitive. And over time, many of us don't learn how to experience emotions. We learn how to avoid them. The interesting thing is that emotions themselves aren't dangerous. They're simply information. They're your body's way of communicating something important about your internal world. Fear might be just asking for protection. Sadness might be asking us to slow down and acknowledge a loss. Anger might be pointing toward a boundary that has been crossed. Joy may be inviting us into connection. Every emotion has something to say. The challenge is that many of us were never taught how to listen. We learned how to judge our emotions before we ever even became curious. Maybe you've caught yourself saying something like, I shouldn't be feeling like this. And those questions come from believing that emotions are some problem to solve instead of some internal experience to understand. Imagine if someone knocked on your front door and you refused to answer it every single time. Eventually, they'd probably start knocking even louder. Emotions can work in a very similar way. The more we push them away, the more persistent they actually become. Not because they're trying to make life difficult, but because they're still trying to be acknowledged. One of the biggest misunderstandings about emotional health is believing that we avoid emotions because we're somehow weak. Usually, that's not what's happening at all. Your nervous system is constantly asking one question: is it safe for me to feel this? If somewhere in your life, feeling emotions led to rejection, criticism, conflict, being ignored, or needing to take care of everyone else instead, your nervous system may have learned that not feeling was a safer option instead. That adaptation once helped you. It served a purpose. The challenge is that strategies that help us in a certain season of life can actually start to disconnect us in another. One of the things that I often tell clients is that our nervous systems are not focused on always making us happy. They're focused on helping us survive. If shutting down your emotions helped you make it through a difficult childhood, an unhealthy relationship, or a stressful environment, your body remembers that. The difficult part is that your nervous system doesn't understand when your circumstances have actually changed. And it usually continues using the same strategies of survival that it's used long after they're still needed. So if you've ever wondered, why do I keep doing this even though I know better? The answer may have much less to do with willpower and much more to do with protection. When people think about avoiding emotions, they often think about someone who is just refusing to talk. But emotional avoidance is usually much more subtle. Sometimes it looks like always staying busy instead of feeling healing, taking care of everyone else's needs, scrolling for hours, overworking, perfectionism, even something like endlessly consuming self-help material without slowing down enough to be curious about what's coming up inside. Sometimes we're searching for answers because sitting with the emotion that's inside is much more uncomfortable. And here's what can make that especially confusing. Many of these behaviors are praised by our culture. Being productive, being dependable, being the one who always keeps it together. And let me be honest, none of those things are inherently unhealthy. But sometimes they become ways to just stay busy enough to never slow down and ask ourselves, how am I really doing? I've worked with many people who have been able to sit down and explain why they felt exactly the way they did. They understood the psychology. They could describe the patterns in incredible detail. But understanding our emotions intellectually is oftentimes not the same thing as experiencing our emotions. And both of them are valuable. But healing often requires us to start to move from our mind and back into our bodies. Many people worry that if they finally allow themselves to feel, they're going to become overwhelmed. And that's understandable. But emotional awareness doesn't ask us to dive into the deepest part of ourselves immediately. Instead, it begins with just noticing. Can I recognize what's happening in my body? Can I become curious before I start to judge? Can I stay with this feeling for just one more breath than I normally would? Healing often happens in moments that are incredibly small. Sometimes emotional awareness begins with something as simple as noticing that your shoulders are tight, your chest feels heavy, or your stomach feels tense. You don't have to immediately know why. Just noticing is already a form of reconnection. I think that sometimes we see healing as one big breakthrough moment, but more often it's built through hundreds of small moments where we choose to stay present with ourselves instead of immediately turning away. Those moments might seem insignificant, but over time they begin to shift our relationship with ourselves. Instead of asking, how do I stop feeling this? Try asking, what might this emotion be trying to tell me? That small shift moves us from fighting ourselves to listening to ourselves. It transforms our emotions from enemies into guides. Not because every feeling we have should control our decisions, but because every feeling should be understood before we decide what we need to do with it. This doesn't mean that every emotion is asking us to take action. Sometimes an emotion just wants to be witnessed. Sometimes sadness isn't asking us to fix anything. Sometimes fear isn't asking us to avoid something. It may simply be reminding us that what we're about to do is deeply important and matters to us. When we stop arguing with our emotions and start becoming curious about them, something very organically and naturally begins to soften. We don't have to agree with every feeling, and we don't have to act on every feeling, but we can begin trusting that our inner experience is worthy of being listened to. And that kind of relationship with ourselves begins to build the foundation of emotional resilience, self-trust, and a deeper connection with the people that we love. If you've spent years disconnected from yourself, I hope you hear this. Emotions are not evidence that something is wrong with you. They're evidence that you're human. And the goal isn't to feel perfectly all the time. The goal is to create enough safety within yourself that you can gently listen when your emotions have something to say. That kind of relationship with yourself, it isn't built overnight. It is built one small moment of awareness at a time. Thank you so much for spending these moments with me. And more importantly, thank you for spending these moments with yourself. yourself. Choosing to understand your inner world takes courage, and I'm honored that you allowed me to be part of that journey today. If you'd like some gentle support in putting today's conversation into practice, I've created a few free resources for you. The first is the companion meditation for this week's video. It's a meditation for emotional awareness. It's designed to help you slow down and notice your emotions with curiosity instead of judgment. I've also created a free workbook that goes along with this entire series of reconnecting with yourself, filled with reflections and exercises to help you continue exploring with curiosity what we've talked about today. And if you're looking for a way to begin building more emotional safety, you can also download my free booklet called Creating Safety for Insight, which offers simple practices to help create your inner safety and environmental safety that makes self-awareness possible. You'll find all of the links to these free resources down in the description below. Take whatever feels supportive and leave the rest. And if you're interested in continue following this series of reconnecting with yourself, please subscribe to the channel. It's a very simple way to make sure that the next conversation in this series finds it to you. In our next video, we're going to explore something that so many people experience: feeling lost. We'll look at why that feeling isn't necessarily an indication of failure. It may actually be an invitation to connect more deeply with yourself. Well, my friend, that is all I have for this video. Until next time, bye for now.